Welcome home to St. Anne's. We want you to know that you're welcome to join us at 10 a.m. on Sundays. Please be sure to hit subscribe to receive our sermons. We can't wait to meet you. So last week during our sermon, we tried to reclaim an image that may not speak to us in our culture today. And we spent a lot of time doing that. This week, this is an image that actually speaks to me. And I think it's perfect because I don't know if you've noticed, but this is the first nice Sunday that we've had in like 2 months. Like every Sunday it's been snowing. I'm like, hello, it's spring. But Missouri missed the memo. So Mother Nature has decided to finally show up, and I think maybe, possibly it's spring. Though the Iowan in me knows that you don't actually plant anything until after Mother's Day. So I assume that's accurate here in Missouri too. Is that accurate? What? Yeah, and we trust Bob. Bob's our go-to plant guy. We have a lot of go-to plant people in this church though. So it's really nice. So maybe this sermon will actually preach to some of you. Because I love our image today. And like I said, I think it coincides perfectly with spring because I have to be honest, it's this time of year that I start to feel alive again. So let's piece through this image that John uses today because we know that John loves imagery. And he uses metaphor frequently to speak to what God is like, what Jesus is like. And today he uses the image of the grapevine, which gives us wine. So hooray, yes, lovely. We like grapevines. They're delicious, especially when they make a nice fresh white. And so it's an image that is incredibly powerful. And he describes the image as God being the one who both gives life to the vine, but also the one that prunes the vine. Now, it is the beginning of gardening season. Now, I'm one of those people because I know that I'm not supposed to play in the garden until after Mother's Day, but I can't help it. So I don't prune anything back in the fall. I don't do fall cleanup. I wait and I do it in the spring so that I feel like I can do something out there that might actually count as gardening, but then I don't get in trouble and I plant something and then it promptly dies, which is usually what happens. I already hung ferns. I know they're going to die, but I already hung them. I'm so excited. And Lowe's has them for $10 a fern. Just saying, $10 a fern is a good deal. So if you need a fern, Lowe's this weekend, $10 a fern. Okay. Because sometimes I give you guys some like buying advice during the sermons. So this is my buying advice. Okay. So there's always... Do you know Audrey Hepburn said, gardening is a believing in tomorrow? Isn't that beautiful? Audrey Hepburn, wonderful, awesome human. We pay so much more attention to how beautiful she was and what a great actress, but really she was an incredible humanitarian. Brilliant, brilliant woman, and stunning theologian, really. So she has this line about how gardening is believing in tomorrow. And I think that is so incredibly true. Because we get to this time of the year and we start to do things in the garden, but you're not absolutely certain, are you? I mean, we take this tiny little seed and we think, maybe something will happen with it? I don't know. But it does. But we have this incredible faith that if we do these things, that this will happen. And so it's that time of the year. And I always have that when I start pruning things. Because I love rose bushes. And I have this every year when I go out and prune my rose bushes. I'm like, ugh. Because it kills you. You put so much work into rose bushes. Rose bushes are so finicky. Because roses and orchids are kind of like humans. The most beautiful ones are the most difficult. Trust me, it's true. There's a theology of gardening here. The most beautiful ones are the most complicated. So I'm out there pruning my rose bushes, and I'm always like, oh, I don't know. And yet, it is the pruning of the rose bushes that helps them to grow, is it not? You prune back all the dead wood, all the stuff that is not good for its growth this coming year. And you do that every year. And it hurts so much to do it. And I'm sure it hurts the rose too. I mean, I don't know, but I'm presuming the roses don't love it. I mean, I can speak as a human. I hate to be pruned. I had a conversation with my intern professor this week. And because we're getting into the end of the semester, it's great. If you notice that I'm more strung out than usual, you may not notice because it's kind of like all the time. But it's more right now than usual. And so she has this conversation with me, and she's like, I really feel like you've had some really significant growth, and we've had some really difficult conversations. And those weren't always pleasant, but you've had a lot of growth. And I was like, yeah, I hate growing. Have you ever met somebody who wakes up in the morning and is like, well, I think I'll change today? No, I think I'll change my jeans today because they're third day jeans and it's probably time. But nobody is like, I'm going to change my personality today. Nobody ever, because nobody wants to do that. Nobody wants to grow. It's horrible. It's awful. And it's painful. Nobody's like, I think I'll go run a marathon today. I mean, there are all those people and you're like, that's sick. But it's rare because it's incredibly painful to grow and change. And yet it's so incredibly important. And that is the message today, because God is both the thing that gives life and helps to grow, but God is also the one who comes in and says, okay, this part, not so good. This is not your good growth part. So we're going to have to work on that a little bit so that you can grow and flourish in other ways. And that's hard to do. It's really, really hard to do. And it takes a ton of faith to put that much love and trust into someone else and trust them to, one, help you to grow, and then also to come in and have that growth of that pruning and saying, you know what, this has to change. And so that is our message today, that God is a source of both, and that true growth for us, true growth comes both with sunlight and pruning. And sometimes that's really hard to do. And it's really, really hard to trust God to do that work. And so that is the message today, is to have faith in that. To have incredible faith in the fact that we have areas in us that are preventing us from really being who we are called to be. And the realization that dealing with those things could be unpleasant. It could be painful. It could be a hard conversation. And to trust that that's worth doing. And also, our community garden is getting started. So I'd really appreciate it if some people would adopt a spot. Otherwise, my children and I are going to be weeding and devoured by chiggers literally all summer. So there's that piece too. But I want us to think about this in a broad way. Because sometimes we focus so much on what we need to do to change. And I realize that I preach that a lot. My focus of preaching is frequently loving other people and changing our own stuff. You may or may not have noticed that I'm kind of a one-line preacher. I have one theme. Well, no, two. Loving other people, getting better at being Christians. Those are kind of my wheelhouse. But sometimes I think it's really important for us to realize that it is God that feeds us, that gives us the strength and love to do those things, because both of those things are really hard to do. There are people that it is hard to love. It is hard, which is why we preach it all the time, because it's hard to do it. And it's hard to change things about ourselves, because as I told my professor, because I'm disorganized. I don't know if any of you have noticed that before, but I forget literally everything, which is why the church is literally littered with my announcement sheets that people put all over to make sure that I actually find one. Or why last week they're like, whose Bible is this? And I was like, yeah, that's my Bible. Okay. So my professor and I are having this conversation, and I was like, I have put 33 years of practice into being this messed up. like years. You don't just be born and be this crazy. It takes years and years of practice to do that, which means it takes years and years of practice to undo some of the crazy too. And some of the crazy I'm not getting rid of. But that is the message today, is to talk about how do we do those things? How do we look at those things honestly and decide what are those things that need to change, that I am a better Christian, that I am more of the person that God has called me to be. And more importantly, how do I recognize a God that supports me in doing that feeds me from the very roots of myself to give me the strength to do that hard work, to grow fruit, to produce, and to be the person that God has called me to be. It is a beautiful day. And I'm one of those people where nature is where God moments are for me. So that's why this gospel speaks so loudly to me, because for me, nature and being in the garden and being outside is where God is strongest for me. In fact, my calling was in the woods on the farm in which I grew up. So this is my stuff. This is my God time. And I know that there are probably people here who this is also your God season. Give yourself permission today to take that time, to plant those seeds, to see God in this. I know, I see this nudging over here. You all know if you're that nature person, and if you're married to that nature person, you know that too. So if you're married to that nature person, give them that time, because it's so important. That's what feeds us. That's what gets us equipped to do the work that we are called to do as Christians. So take that time today. Give yourself the gift of spending some time with God in nature. Be that however it is. If that means pruning your rose bushes and feeling really, really bad that you're doing it, but trust me, in August, they'll appreciate it. If it's planting the seeds, thinking, okay, like I know there might be more snow, but maybe if I plant them inside and I sow them inside, then, after Mother's Day, I can actually put them in the ground. Because this is a time of incredible faith. Spring is a time of incredible growth and incredible faith. Give yourself the gift of that incredible growth and that incredible faith. When you go out there, do what those incredible sunflowers do. Turn your face to the sun and grow.
We want you to know that you're welcome to join us at 10 a.m. on Sundays. Please be sure to hit subscribe to receive our sermons. We can't wait to meet you.
We believe in one Lord Jesus.